It's a half-wave.
Yeah.
Right. So standing waves. Let's start with the standing waves right now. So standing waves is when you have a wave going forward, a progressive wave going forward, and the same wave bouncing back. And when they bounce, when the ongoing wave and the reflected wave kind of overlap, it forms permanent positions of zero displacements. They're called nodes. These are permanent positions of zero displacements. And permanent positions of maximum displacements, which is antinode, 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 antinode. And if you try to look at that wave properly, this is one wave. That is one wave. So the distance from this node to this node is a wavelength. That is a wavelength. That is one wavelength. And the distance from node to node is half a wavelength. And the distance from an antinode to a node is 1/4 of a wavelength. All right, so understand that's the basic thing that you need to understand. In a standing wave, distance between one node and another node is half a wavelength. Distance between an antinode and a node is 1/4 of a wavelength. Now, how this is applied to say musical instruments, guitar. So in a guitar, you have the string vibrating like that. So between 2 points, the string is plucked and the string vibrates like this, right? So when the string vibrates like that, this is a node and that is a node. So what's happening here is a progressive wave is going forward and bouncing back, and it is perfectly in resonance, setting up this standing wave. And node to node distance is half a wavelength. So the length of the string that you're plucking is equal to half a wavelength. And therefore lambda is equal to 2L. So if you pluck the guitar string of length L, the wavelength of the wave that you're actually setting up on the string is 2L. Now, how fast is the wave moving here? The speed of the waves back and forth. Speed of transverse waves is given by the equation V is equal to square root of tension over mass per unit length. Okay? Mass per length. So this is the speed of the transverse waves through a string, and this is important. Speed of longitudinal waves is not that important because it talks about modulus of elasticity, which is beyond your course. So you don't have to worry about it. But this is something that you will know. Tension, you know what is tension, right? You know what is tension, you know what is mass per unit length and all that. So this is also called linear density. This thing is called linear density, yeah.
So that's in kilograms per meter.
Yes, this is kilograms per meter, that's right. So what is the linear density of this meter stick? The linear density of the meter stick is, how much is the mass of the meter stick? Say, let's say 100 grams. 100 grams per meter. So that's per meter, right? That's called the linear density, and that's what this is. So if you're looking at any string, it will have its own linear density. So this is the speed equation, velocity equation. And you know the velocity is equals to F lambda, that is your wave equation. That's your wave equation where F and lambda are inversely proportional to each other, right? So from this wave equation, what is frequency? Frequency is V over lambda. There is your V and there is your lambda. And therefore, the equation for frequency is velocity over lambda. See, this is velocity over lambda. This is your equation for the guitar string. When you pluck a guitar string, who plays guitar here? Then I can play better. Okay.
That's pretty good.
So F, this is the equation for the guitar itself, completely. This is the equation defines the whole frequency of the guitar. So when you pluck a string on the guitar, the frequency of the sound that you're going to hear depends on these factors. Three factors. One is the length of the string that you're plucking, then the tension on the string, and then the mass per meter of the string, how heavy the string is. Okay? Now, this is the only thing that is in your control while playing the guitar. While playing the guitar, this is the only thing that you change to change the frequency. Right? And how do you change the length?
Put your fingers on it.
Yeah. You bring it closer and closer, you're getting higher and higher frequency. The shorter the length of the string that you're plucking, the higher the frequency. So if you want to play lower notes, you go further away from, what do you call that board? Some fretboard or something?
Yeah, fretboard.
Yeah, fretboard. So when you go away from the fretboard, you're getting a lower frequency. And when you come closer, so if you come twice as close, that means like you have the distance, you're having the length. What will happen to the frequency? Just doubles. So if you got a certain note at a certain length, so if I'm playing here, and if the length is from here to here, and it sounds a certain frequency, when I bring down my hands here, then it is going to sound double the frequency, just double. So there's a lot of orderliness in the guitar, and that's why there are these positions where if you put your finger there, it actually gives you so many times the previous frequency and so on. So there's a lot of orderliness in music itself. Alright, so this is the one which you are able to control while playing the music, but this is also something that you control while playing music. What is this one?
String.
The choice of the string. You want a lower note, a bass, then you pluck the thicker string which is on the top, right? And thinner string, which is lighter string, is at the very bottom. You plug that, you end up getting a higher frequency. Why higher? Because the mass per unit length is smaller. You get it?
Yeah.
Tension is something that we normally use to tune the instruments. Like that is not something that we do during a normal play. Yeah, you still use it. During normal play, if you kind of, wobble it, if you kind of pull the string as you're doing it, you can fluctuate the frequency. Right? A kind of, what do you call that?
Whammy bar. Yeah.
You can fluctuate it as you're pressing it. Instead of just holding it still, if you kind of move it around or press it harder, like...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you press it harder, you're actually tightening the string and loosening the string, so that makes it fluctuate the frequency, which is also something that's melodious. All right, so tension is something that you normally control before playing the music because you want to get the strings tuned up. So that's for tuning purposes. This one while playing, this one while playing. That's the frequency of a guitar string. Okay? Now, this is transverse waves through a string, causing standing waves. And all stringed instruments work on this idea. All stringed instruments work on this idea. Right? So when you're playing a piano, that's exactly what it is. The frequency that you're going to get by hitting a certain key, because the hammer goes and hits the string, and when it hits the string is stretched to a certain length and tightened appropriately, and it has a certain weight, and so the sound comes accordingly. All right. So these are this is the equation for the frequency that comes out from a stretched string. Now, from a tube, you can have longitudinal standing waves set up here. Longitudinal standing inside here. And to have a longitudinal standing waves, it's sound. So this is antinode, and that's a node. Okay? So what happens is the waves are actually going to go, bounce, and come back. Now, this is something that you don't visually see. You don't see it because it's longitudinal and it is made up of particles of air. So this is a place where it's getting compressed, and this is a place where it's getting stretched out. So antinode is at the edge, and antinode is a little above the edge. There's a little thing called end correction. I'll talk about that later. So this is the node, and that is the antinode. So if you know the length of, how many wavelengths is this? How many wavelengths? 1/4. Between an antinode and a node, you have 1/4 of a wavelength, and that is equal to L. So the length of this tube is equal to lambda over 4. So lambda is equal to 4L. And again, velocity is equal to F lambda. So the frequency of the sound that you end up getting from a tube like this is velocity over lambda. But this time the velocity is the speed of sound through air, which is roughly 340. So 340 meters per second over the lambda, which is this, 4L. So this is going to be V over 4L. So the sound that you end up getting is V over 4L. So when I blow this thing, you're supposed to get a certain frequency, right? So if I measure the length of this, including the end correction, it comes out roughly 4.2 centimeters. So the length of the string is 4.2 centimeters. So if it is 4.2 centimeters, what is 4L? Help? What is 4L? 0.168. No. Oh, in meters, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In meters, it's 0.168 meters. So put that here, 0.168. And what is the frequency that's coming? What frequency is coming out?
2023.809.
2000?
23.
2000.3?
2023.8.
24 hertz. That's the frequency that's supposed to come out when I blow this. So when I blow this thing, that frequency that you're hearing should be 2024. Let me check that out. Watch this number here, if anyone can watch. I have to get it right. No, it'll go. Didn't you see all this time? Here, in this little hole.
It's really small.
Get up.
Get up. Stop talking. You'll mess it up.
Oh. He's staring at it.
It's like 1900.
Nah.
Yeah. It's like it's 1999.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Well, isn't there like a little piece at the bottom?
It is 1982 is what I'm seeing here. Let me see this gap. This gap is probably higher. I don't know if there's anything inside here.
Pull it up.
Maybe there's some plastic sitting inside there.
Dude, I'm not getting up again. You get up.
like 2011.
2011. Okay, so this is slightly on the higher side.
Higher.
Yeah, this is slightly higher. So between these two, there's a tiny difference in frequency.
It's the color.
We can.
Do them both at the same time. Windows will shatter.
No, forget it.
Oh.
All right. So which is better, blue or red?
Red.
I'm not talking about UL UK. Yes.
So where's the point 168 meters?
This is 4 times the length. So it's 4 times what was it? 4.2 centimeters. And so this will come out 16.8 centimeters, which is converted to meters. So we need to get everything in meters and all this. So that's the frequency that comes out from that little tube. The longer the tube, the smaller the frequency. So if I have a tube that is smaller than that, I mean a bit longer than that,
Beautiful.
that's lower.
We should make a band.
So if there is a tube that is actually like lower and lower, then you can actually get it. Okay. Yep, pretty good.
Yeah.
So that is frequency. So that's exactly how all wind instruments work. So flute, right? So on the flute there are holes. So when you're blowing the flute, by closing the holes, you're making the length longer. Makes sense? By closing the holes, you make the length longer, so you get a lower note. You open one hole at a time like this, and then the frequency goes higher, higher, higher. So that's how it works. Yeah.
So the width doesn't matter at all.
The thickness of the tube.
Diameter, yeah.
The thickness of the tube, in fact, increases the amplitude. That's why church organ pipes and all that. Have you seen those pipes?
Yeah.
It's like that.
Meaty pipes.
They got pipes.
It's really big, and yeah,
Dude,
that will be much bigger. An
So the
amplitude.
amplitude is just like how loud it is.
Yeah, amplitude definitely will be better. This end correction will be the end correction here is almost like 0.3 times the diameter. So yeah, it should be slightly higher. For a larger diameter, the end correction will be more. That's only the difference. But otherwise, the technique of how wind instruments work is exactly the same idea. Is that clear? Okay. So standing waves are the ones which are used in all wind instruments and stringed instruments. Standing waves. It's completely standing waves. And there are so many other areas where standing waves are in use. Now, moving on to the chapter of sound, which is the next chapter. And as you can see here, the transition from one chapter to the next chapter is very smooth. We did circular motion, right?
Yeah.
And after we studied circular motion, we came to know many of those equations, V equal to R omega and all those things. And then finally, we switched over from there to simple harmonic motion very smoothly. And then we suddenly talked about the same kind of equations. And then we defined simple harmonic motion. And then we used phase angle and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So understanding simple harmonic motion. And after simple harmonic motion, we moved on to waves, which is also simple harmonic motion of each particle up and down. So each particle on a wave is going up and down, simple harmonic. But the only thing is, it is passing on the energy from one to the other, and that is what causes the whole thing about waves. So we studied about waves, and we saw how waves move through strings and through air and all that, the different kinds of waves. You have the complete listing of the all kinds of waves. So if you look at all kinds of waves, there are 4, right? Progressive transverse, progressive longitudinal. Stationary transverse, like in a guitar string. Stationary longitudinal, like in this tube. Okay? And from there, we are just moving to sound, because sound is a special wave. What is sound? Oh?
Progressive.
Sound is progressive and longitudinal. But yes, you can actually use this sound and set up a standing wave. Yes, you can set up a standing wave with sound. But sound generally is progressive and longitudinal. When I'm talking to you, the sound is coming to you in the form of compressions and expansions. Not crests and troughs, but compressions and expansions. That's how sound is coming to you. And the series of compressions and expansions can be of different frequencies, can be of different wavelengths. So that is how they're all linked. So again, while we are doing sound, we will also be studying about the guitar strings and overtones and all those things as time goes on. But generally, what causes sound? Vibrations. Vibration is what causes sounds. If I'm actually going to take this meter stick and do this, I'm creating a vibration, which means I'm creating compressions and expansions. So the air is getting compressed and expanded, which means a sound is coming to you. But it is not in the audible region. The sound that's coming to you is not in the audible region. So what is this audible region? Audible region is 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Before we continue with that one, let me show you a standing wave in the lab.
It would be higher or lower.
All right, this is the audible range for normal, healthy human beings.
So you're saying Logan's unhealthy?
Absolutely. I'll tell you and I'll prove it to you right now.
Old people can't hear.
Hold on. This is what actually, like, newly born child will be able to get this. 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. They will be able to hear everything. For you, this is not 20. 20 you cannot hear. 30, no. 40, no. 50, no. 60, maybe 70, 80, probably. So your range is actually almost from 80 hertz to
4,000.
yours will be something like 18,000.
Is it because like
Dude,
when
I
babies
just
are
lost
first
2,000
born,
hertz.
their like eardrums are a lot more sterile.
In good condition.
Yeah.
And why is this one damaged? Why is this range being affected? Is because you have tortured your eardrums with loud music. Because this is purely by misuse of the eardrums.
Yeah.
And this one is purely by your age. And this is not under control. This one is not in your control at all. Now you can possibly hear up to 18,000. Some of you will say no, 17,000 and above I cannot hear. Some of you will say 16,000 is the maximum I can hear. For me it's 10,000. Yeah. For me it's 10,000.
So like,
It depends on your age. How old do you think I am?
60, 60, 50, 52.
I give you mid-20s.
How much do you think I am?
50.
Give a good guess.
48, 49.
50.
53.
Well, I'm 57. I look probably younger than 57. Everyone. All right. The age component is a very important component. I tested my dad's frequency range, and he can hear this one as good as I can hear, but this was 4,000.
That's rough. Wait, is that a box right there? Like a machine?
No, I actually used a different method of testing him out. In fact, after realizing that he couldn't hear more than 4,000, I actually those alarm clocks which actually beeps, beep 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 beep. I turned one on and kept it there, and it was chirping all the time. And then I asked my dad after 5 minutes, and I asked him so do you hear any sounds in this room? Tell me, what sounds do you hear? Right? And then he was kind of, he was referring to more of the fan sound, like the humming sound of the fan, the tube lights humming sound, and so on, because they're the low frequencies. This thing was chirping right in front of him, and he didn't realize that.
So if you don't want to wake up someone who's older than you with your alarm clock, you can just make it super high pitch.
But then you have to wake up to
Yeah,
that.
just get a
Yeah,
double
that would suck.
That would suck.
Now that is what is used by, I don't know, these days hardly anyone uses that. There is a ringtone that you can download, which is called the mosquito ringtone.
Oh, yeah.
Mosquito ringtone is a high pitch frequency that youngsters can hear. Like, for example, it is around 17,000, above 17,000.
Oh, so did people used
So
to, like,
when you go to church, you don't have to silence your phone. You just go there, and when it rings, you just you can actually like look what's going on. But I'm not saying that you should do that. But no,
That's crazy.
I'm saying like I've seen people do that because most people coming to church are old, so
Yeah.
they won't hear that anyway.
So you knew it.
So 16,000, 17,000. Once you cross 25, 30, you're not going to hear it.
Do you have the machine with you?
I'll check it out right now.
Sam,
Yes,
how high can our voices go?
voices.
Can I say something at 10,000 or something at 12,000?
No, your voice cannot go to 10,000.
What if my
It can probably go up to. If you scream kind of loud or something like that, it is possible to make it go up to say 4,000, 5,000. I don't think it can go more than that.
That's way too.
Oh my.
Okay, we'll find out right now. I have everything right here for you to check it out.
Good.
Now there are frequencies. There are frequencies below 20 hertz. So 0 to 20 hertz. These frequencies are called infrasonic. And this is the audible range. This is supposed to be the audible range, but as I said, your range is now this. My range is almost the same thing from here to approximately. It's not here. This I think I can hear a bit lower than this.
Oh,
And mine is like 10,000. It changes this one changes according to age, but this is purely according to how you have made your eardrums immune to normal frequencies. In other words, you pump high music, heavy music into it, the ear actually gets accustomed to hearing loud, not gentle sounds. So the sensitivity actually kind of is lost. And that is why you cannot sense frequencies which otherwise you could normally sense, right? So that's frequency range. So this is only affected by misuse. This is affected by age. Now both of these can be affected by some medical issues, medical problems. So that can happen. Infrasonic sound is frequencies from 0 to 20 hertz. Not of a great use for us. Infrasonic sound is not of any great use, but there are animals using this range.
Like a dog whistle.
No,
That's the
That's
opposite.
the other way.
Oh,
dog whistle is on the other side. This one is used by giraffes, elephants. They use low frequencies.
Hippos.
I don't know. No, I'm not talking about the sound that you're hearing. What you're hearing is they're screaming high. Okay? So what you're hearing is their high pitches. If an elephant is making a high pitched sound, that is a totally different thing. But elephants can produce low frequencies. In fact, research has been done and they found out that a group of elephants communicate with each other. There's some kind of talking going on. And what they did was they put high sensitive microphones attached to them and they were actually like monitored. They recorded it.
0.1 hertz.
They record it should be somewhere between 0 and 2. So they recorded the entire sound and fast forwarded it, and they found that they were kind of saying some phrases, some words. So when they fast forwarded, there was some kind of a phrase. This elephant says hello, and that one says, hey, how are you?
Well,
But it is not in English, it's in elephant language, okay? Now I heard about this long back, about this particular thing. Alright.
well,
Elephants are gonna
they do communicate with each other, and that communication is something that we don't hear because it's infrasonic. So elephants in a group are sometimes harmless, as you know, if you see an elephant group going off like that or crossing the roads, then that is harmless because not a single elephant will take a decision to come and attack, because the others will say, no, don't go there. Let's mind our business, So that's what happens. But if there's a single elephant, there's likeliness of it getting upset about your presence, and then it will start chasing you.
So scary.
It happened to me once when I was crossing from one state in India to the other state, and we had to cross a forest, and so they don't allow night travel, but it was almost close to evening, and so they said, okay, you can go now. But as we are traveling during the evening hours,
may I have your attention, please? Please disregard that bell. It rang at the wrong time. Thank you.
all right. So what happened was we were driving. Somebody was driving the car, and we were basically like in a cab, going. And then he said, "Okay, just look out. You may see some animals, and just if you're lucky, you'll see some tigers even maybe. So just watch out." So we were looking out, and at one spot we saw the elephant on the other side of the road, and we stopped. Right on the road, we stopped because there's hardly any traffic, so we just stopped over there, and we were taking pictures. Opened our windows and taking pictures of that elephant that was standing on the side and just eating something. And as we were doing that, my flash actually worked at that moment. And after the flash worked out, this guy actually lifted his head up and looked at my car, and then it started walking. It started walking towards us, and I said, "Okay, go." So we're just lucky. We're just lucky that he put in the first gear and just roared out of the place. And I could actually see him kind of turn around and then make a few steps behind the car. But after that, we just went off. Suppose the car did not start. Because we turned the car off. Suppose the car did not start. That is the end of it. The whole family was inside there. And it was a very small car, so it is dangerous. Yeah.
How fast can an elephant
Run.
20 kilometers.
They can run fast, but if you want to escape from an elephant, then you should run around trees, because they can't turn too fast.
No level.
The alligators.
Yeah, their centripetal force kind of kills them. So because they're a big mass and they can't make a steep turn, because then they will fall off. So they can only take turning they can only do slowly. Running straight, no problems.
That's how alligators are.
Hmm?
That's how alligators are.
Oh, really?
Yeah, isn't that really fast? Well, that's mostly because they have short legs.
So they can't tend to stop.
Yeah. Ostrich?
Do those things?
I don't
You're
know.
done.
I think ostrich also cannot turn that quickly.
No, they can't.
They can, but they can tilt.
No,
That's it.
you lay flat on yourself and go on the ground. And they're so dumb, they'll just run over you.
Really? I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Okay.
Call me Borex does not exist.
I didn't know that. Okay, so if just slide on.
I feel like it needs to be fact checked.
Alright.
Anyway, elephants are kind of very friendly too at the same time. There are a lot of elephants that are tamed in India, and they are. Some of them actually keep them as sort of pets as well, but not at home. They keep them separately somewhere. And if you go to YouTube and look up elephant polo.
Well, elephant portal?
Polo.
Like the sport.
Oh,
That's some really long sticks.
And elephant soccer.
That's so cool.
Elephants play soccer. Seriously. You look it up on YouTube and you'll see it.
And
Dude, elephants are basically players.
Huh?
Elephants are basically people. They can talk and play soccer.
That's right.
Yo, are you sure?
It's called
Have you ever been elephant? Maybe we just can't see elephant.
Okay. Okay, all
Maybe
right.
their sounds are too low frequency to work.
So infrasonic sounds are of no great use other than some animals use it. That's it. And then higher than this is called ultrasonic. Ultrasonic or ultrasound. Our frequency is about 20,000 hertz. Anything above 20,000 hertz is ultrasound. And so ultrasound is greatly used in multiple places. And
Pregnancy, like pregnancy.
yeah, I mean ultrasound imaging. Ultrasound imaging is one of them. Ultrasound is also used for sterilization of medical equipments or even kitchen utensils. If ultrasound is also added into your dishwasher, it will knock off particles very quickly.
What?
Yeah, but they don't use them. Ultrasound is good at it because ultrasound has got high frequency, so they kind of agitate it, shake it up.
Yeah.
It's much easier to do that. So yeah, so ultrasound is used for that. And ultrasound also is something that causes fear in us.
What?
Yeah, ultrasound causes fear.
Oh, I've heard about that.
So if I turn this thing on and keep it on ultrasound mode, for no reason you'll be like sweating in your palm and
Do they do that in scary movies? Like, do they have ultrasound backgrounds when you're in a scary movie?
I can scare you in different ways. I can just tell you, all right, take a piece of paper, we'll have a quiz right now, and you'll be sweating.
You're right.
Ultrasonic sound.
All right, so ultrasounds can cause that fear factor. That is why horror movies, they have high-pitched sounds attached to their track. You understand? Not a single horror movie will have a low frequency, somebody playing a piano in the background. No. You know, it will be high frequencies like cricket sounds.
Yeah.
That causes the fear. The cricket sounds, think of this. You know it's cricket. Those are tiny insects.
They make me mad.
And when you're actually walking in the dark, I don't know how many of you walk in the dark.
Every once in a while.
Yeah.
I don't think
I
so.
walk vertical. So.
Where do you walk in the dark? Here.
Around
I walk
the
my
woods.
dog. Like in summer, I walk my dog in the dark, so it's
Yeah.
not
Or go to your basement, turn off all the lights, and just walk for a moment and add this cricket sound, and then you're done. You'll be like nervous for no reason.
Freaky.
Yeah. All right.
Jazz.
So ultrasound is used for multiple purposes. Shh. Now let me test your ranges. Before I test your ranges, I want you to see something.
That's gonna be the monster thing with.
I'm going to put.
Wow, good observation. That you have eyes.
Something I think that we like like ultrasonic sounds.
Go home. Silver.
Yeah.
Come back tomorrow. I'm gonna try like this.
Do you hear the sound?
I hear eyes.
Yeah.
Yes?
No,
Yes.
you do not.
I definitely
I
do.
bet it's not even.
I don't know.
It's
really weird.
I'm getting pretty scared though.
Is that a sound?
You hear the sound?
I don't know if it's that or my tinnitus.
Oh, you have tinnitus?
I'm trying to hear.
Yeah.
I have tinnitus, but I thought you didn't have it.
Yeah.
Do you hear it now?
No.
No.
Nobody.
And you could hear before?
No, I was just messing with you.
I know.
See, I told you. Oh, no way.
What's
Because what I just said right now is ultrasound. This is ultrasound.
The other one.
And you're not able to hear it.
No.
Obviously you can't hear it.
Pretty frightful.
This is ultrasound. Alright, now let's go back to this. Now this is a frequency of 1 hertz. The frequency is just 1 hertz. And if you look at the speaker, you will see the speaker cone is moving. Let me pull this
It
up.
wasn't you.
Yeah, okay. Look at the speaker cone.
One time.
Oh, it's really slow. Yeah.
You see it moving?
Yeah.
It's like breathing.
Yeah.
Now if I make it 2 hertz, oh, this is basically 2 hertz. And this is 4 hertz. Can you see it
Yeah.
moving? Everyone can see it?
Yeah.
20,000 hertz.
And this is 6 hertz. You can see it moving faster now.
Yeah, it's actually kind of speedy.
8 hertz, and this is 10 hertz. This is 10 hertz. Obviously, you're not supposed to hear. This is infrasonic sound. You can see my hand moving.
Yeah.
But it's expensive.
All right, so that is, I'm going to increase it gradually, and then you'll see how the frequencies are sensed. I will. Should I tell you if it is 20?
No.
I'll tell you when it's 20.
I hear
Okay.
a plane code. Like, what?
I will just keep on going, and then you tell me when you hear the sounds. All right? Not that. No, that's not that. As soon as you hear first time, tell me, okay? That's Budniak sound. That's not. Hearing it?
I don't know. What would it tell? 20 hertz.
Oh, I hear it.
You heard it?
I don't know if that's something else, but
There's a door down there.
no, I know it's not the door. I think so.
You think you heard it?
Yeah. I think
You hearing it? We are at 70.
Oh.
70.
Good job, you again.
I feel like I'm right here.
We are at 70. So if you are hearing that, probably. Do you use earphones a lot?
Yeah.
I don't know. You're lucky still having that little.
Yeah, I'll play it
If you're
loud.
hearing the right thing, okay.
Go to 100.
Now that is 80 hertz.
I don't hear anything.
That is 90 hertz.
I don't think I hear it.
I might hear it.
No, I don't hear it.
Okay.
What's
This
it
is 100 hertz.
I think it's like
I hear it.
It's like humming.
You hear it?
Yeah, it's like humming.
It's a humming sound, yes. It's 110.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody not hearing this?
Put it at
This is 120. 120?
Okay.
Wait,
130?
what's the max that goes?
Well, this, you should be able to hear these things. Anybody not hearing this? This is 130, 140,
Oh, I can hear it now.
150, 160, 170, 180.
There it is.
Now, if you cannot hear this, you should go to a doctor immediately.
1,000.
That is 200 hertz. Now, let me go back.
That was a cool sound.
That is 200 again. That is 200 again. That is 300, 400, 500,
Thank you for
600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000, 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, 1,500, 1,600. That is 2,000.
Keep going.
That is 2,000, and you can just check it out now.
Oh, does it sound like the pin?
It should. It should technically be the same. So,
Stage right.
gosh. Close, right? Okay.
That's about 3
jokes this time. Higher.
No.
That is 2,000. 3,000. 4,000.
Yes.
Now, you can sing with this pitch. That's too high. That is too high. Look at the pitch. So, singing. How about this? No, that is low, much lower. Like if you scream like high pitch. My voice is not good. If you kind of scream at your high pitch, my voice is not good. Otherwise, I can actually scream. All right. That is 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000. Hear it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can
10,000.
you hear it? Can you hear it?
I'm done.
What?
This is 10,000. I'm done. I cannot hear this.
Take it to
That's crazy.
Keep going.
11,000.
Yeah.
I'm totally done. 12,000.
Yeah.
Absolutely cool. I can just hold on like this.
I can't hear it. I can hear
Is it too loud for you?
No, it's fine.
You can't hear?
I can hear it.
Oh, okay. 13,000.
Keep going.
14,000.
Oh.
Yeah.
Keep going.
15,000.
Higher.
No, I'm not going to say anymore. I'm going to keep increasing.
Okay.
And the moment you kind of say, all right, I can't hear anymore, then bring your hands down.
Oh, keep your hands up until.
Can you not hear?
No. Take your hands up if you cannot hear anymore.
Okay.
Guffy, you better stop.
All right. Just to let you know that this frequency is 16,500.
Keep her going. Keep her going.
All right.
I can hear it now though. But I can't hear it
I
earlier.
feel like my ears are about to start bleeding.
I can't hear it anymore.
Oh, I can't hear it anymore.
Okay, that is 17,200.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
I can still hear it.
17,200 rose.
I can't hear
Yeah.
it right about.
That is 17,800 or something like that.
Oh, you're an old man.
Hearing it?
Yeah.
You still hear it?
Colin, can you hear this?
Oh, I can hear it.
Yeah.
You can?
Yeah.
You still hear it? Okay.
Logan.
What is the? It like came back.
It
Yeah.
came back?
Like I couldn't hear it, and then I could hear it again.
It's
Oh,
probably-
yeah, Logan.
I still can hear it.
I can still hear it.
You can hear it. Okay.
Keep
Now-
put that puppy all the way up.
Now, just listen carefully and see if you can hear it. Listen carefully. How many of you can hear it still? Raise your hand.
Maybe.
You can still hear it, right?
Ah, get me! Surprise!
I said earlier, I've been not.
Wait, it's
Okay.
It's
Yeah, it keeps ringing. It keeps ringing for some time. That's why I pulled it out long back and then you can still hear it.
I can never trust you again.
You're a fraud.
All right, listen. This is 19,000. You're not supposed to be hearing it, and this is 20,000. This is the beginning of ultrasound.
Can you go to 40 real quick? Can you go to 40?
40.
I don't
Now,
want
so if I turn this on and leave it like this as I'm teaching, it will cause a kind of nervous feeling in this room.
Mr. CM.
Unnecessary.
Because
Because your brain kind of senses it, and so
Does the
Yeah.
higher make it you get more scared?
Go to 40 to like make her sweat.
Dude, I'm so dropped off at 1,300.
Dude, I want to see if there's
I was 17,200.
I can literally see you. 40,000.
What is that speaker?
I was doing the whole time.
See, what's weird is that now we're like always be thinking that like there's a sound out of this room.
You should take her.
What? Poop yourself? Oh my god, that's everywhere.
You should randomly do this to a class.
from here. That is from here.
What?
That's from here.
Yeah, that means that none of you.
What frequency is that?
He did that in the
This is 640
Cranked that on.
or something like that.
640.
So
It's dangerous.
if I take this and hook it up with this speaker, it will ring everywhere.
That's
Do
amazing.
it. We're in the school.
I've tried it so many times when freshmen enter Mr. Budniak's room,
Yeah.
they are all walking along the corridor, just 2 minutes left for the bell to ring. I just turn it on and open the door and just press this, and you can see everyone dashing into the room. And then comes the real bill afterwards. Okay, so this is 640. Is it higher?
Yeah.
Is it higher than normal? Or?
Yeah, it's
higher.
Tune in when the bell's actually ringing out.
This is higher, you said?
What website are you using?
I
Better?
hear it.
That's higher. It's higher.
I think it's a.
This is higher? That's good. Yeah, that was the bell. That was the bell.